This episode is sponsored by Assault Fitness. Assault has been a part of Power Monkey Camp for a long time. We've incorporated the runners, bikes, and rowers in our endurance sessions, as well as the competitions that we have at camp and our nightly workouts. See what all the hype is about and take advantage of their machine markdown madness. Save big on their elite runners and their pro bikes now. Check out the full lineup of machines at assaultfitness.com. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have the head coach of Brute Strength, Mr. Matt Torres. I love speaking with Matt. He's a great guy. He's very genuine. We get a little bit into his background as an athlete playing collegiate football, and that transitioning into him being a coach of elite athletes and getting involved with Brute, what it is today versus what it might have been a decade ago, and what he's hoping to see it grow into in the next decade plus. Talk a little bit about the athletes that he has under his tent right now, the Dallin Peppers, Danielle Brandons, and such, and what their experience was like being at Power Monkey Camp with us just a few weeks ago. Loved speaking with Matt. He has a very, very interesting take on being an elite coach and how much it means to him. I think there's a lot of things will resonate with our community. I know it does within our Power Monkey team, and we hope you guys enjoy this one. All right, well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. How are things going down in Florida right now?
Things are going wonderful, man. Just preparing this week for the Rogue Invitational with Danielle. We have David Bradley's coming down to visit some of his buddies. He's from the training think tank camp. So it's been a good week. Fee comes in a week as well. So we'll have the whole team down here officially.
That's amazing. And I know you're building the team. We'll talk about the team in a little bit, but this episode is going to come out right after Rogue Invite is going to happen. So you mentioned only Danielle is going from your crew. Is she going to be the only one competing?
Yeah, this year she'll be the only one competing for sure.
Okay. So what are some predictions for you? You want to see when this actually goes live, whether or not we can kind of see if your predictions come true. What are you hoping to see happen out there?
With Rogue, it's kind of unknown. They do a really good job at, I guess, creating chaos, especially in the first event, as history showed in the past. Last year they did that, ruck rope climb. I think one year they're doing ski and like shooting some sort of like air rifle.
Mm-hmm.
All we know this year is that they're going to do a trail run. Apparently, it's going to be something offsite. They've already surprised us, which I'm glad that they did. Thursday is the starting day. This for Danielle is going to be something where really it just gives us data points moving forward. I would love for her to be sitting on that podium, of course. But I think our ultimate goal is to get onto that podium at the CrossFit Games. So, these tests that Rogue has set out for her is definitely going to test her as an all-around athlete that I think are going to be super beneficial for us to use as training pieces moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple interesting pieces in there. One is Danielle's fairly new to your team. And you mentioned Fee coming in, and Emma has come in fairly recently, and you're building the team. And we'll talk about camp later down the road. But one of the things that really kind of hit me after speaking with you at Power Monkey Camp a few weeks ago and listening to the athletes who work with you, they all find it very refreshing that, you're so individualized the way you work with all the athletes. And we had Dallin on the podcast not that long ago. And I don't always find that to be the easiest thing in the world, to be able to create an individualized program for as many athletes as you're working with on a regular basis. But with someone who's coming from a different place like Danielle, or Emma or Fee, how long would you say that it takes for you to be able to feel like they're your athlete before they're fully under your tutelage, under your guidance as a programmer, before you're feeling like, okay, this is my athlete?
Definitely. I think it definitely takes a lot of trust because the style of programming is different traditionally as you've seen in history. And, CrossFit programming for the elite level athletes has changed tremendously over the years. And I do believe that, my variation of it is the smarter variation of it that is not, let's just throw intensity and volume on top of volume on top of intensity constantly and frequently. It does take, a lot of trust from these athletes to believe in me and my coaching staff around. And I think that trust process, it usually takes like one competition to come in and be like, oh, so this is how much I've improved. Because for the most part, because it is individualized program, they're not competing against one another. So sometimes it's hard to see the improvement, like as a whole. You can see that the weights are getting stronger. You can see that you've improved in your rowing or your running individually, but are the pieces coming together naturally? And for each athlete, that trust comes at a different time. That that is like, it could be a matter of like one short month where we're rolling with each other, training with each other. Me and Dom coaching Danielle at the CrossFit Games. And then it's like, okay, now that I've been working with you for the last 2 months, what does this look like going into our first real competition? So to me, I take the same, conversation. It's the moment we're working together. I treat you like family. My sister or my best friend. It's all the same feeling. So on my end, all I want to do is help and give to the best of my ability. And obviously, I want to make champions. And so whatever that means. And then to each person, it's a different ride. And it's a different time span for each person as far as how they feel, if they're a part of the team or if they're, my athlete.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all the athletes that we got to hang out with from your crew just speak so highly of their interactions with you and the way that you approach programming and coaching and interacting with them. I think it is very personal on their side of it as well. And I think you're probably the first coach that I'm asking this question, but it's one that I've asked quite a few with the quite a few times with the athletes that we have on, and it's become kind of a reoccurring question. I'm interested from your perspective on the coaching side, and I think we answered a little bit in terms of individualization, but a lot of athletes train on their own and find the benefit in training as an individual where they have their coach maybe separately or they have their coach with them, but there's just them and their coach. And we're starting to see more of these grouping super teams, whatever you want to call them, such as yourself or the others that we've seen around the country, where the athletes are leaving their homes and going to train in a singular location where they're able to train with some of the others that have similar goal sets. Now, there could be a lot of negatives that go along with that, right? Where you're in a competitive atmosphere every single day, and I'm trying to go and compete against the person that's going to be, vying for a podium spot with me every single day, and how, potentially challenging that can be to be able to stay at that sustained level for so long. But I actually, posed that question to Dallin when we spoke with him, and he said, like, it doesn't ever feel like that in the gym. That the way that Matt sets it up is that, maybe I'm competing against a female that day. Maybe it's me and Danielle that are challenging each other. So I'm never really going against someone that might be in my category. But more often than not, they're not even doing the same workouts on the same day, which it seems like, which is, I mean, seems incredibly challenging to be able to navigate a different workout for so many individuals that are all training for the same thing. How are you able to sort through that and keep things together? And is that done intentionally to prevent this idea of competitive situation happening on a daily basis?
It's definitely something that it's I don't even know, like 6-7 years in the making, and I'm still working on it every day. Uh, it is very important to take care and understand the personalities, and I don't want to use this in the bad way, but the egos of the athletes, and not egos and like they have a big head, but more so like what they've experienced in their history that has created their personality and the way they view things today. That type of ego, that is a very natural thing, because it is, it could be pretty, mentally destructive if they just came back from a CrossFit Games and then they feel like they're losing, but also at the same time they're getting better but still losing. So trying to work and fine tune that is important, but also at the same time, I'm trying to work with my athletes to allow them to understand that in training, I'm very okay with seeing them fail and seeing them fall short, right? Because there's really no expectations for me as a coach in training. Like, I need to see their breaking point. But to them, breaking point shows like weakness, right? So it's this almost like this thing that I'm trying to create in there where it's like, guys, even though, Dallin can cycle a barbell amongst, the best in the world, and James can row and run amongst the best in the world, if I can shorten that gap with Dallin catching up with James on the running and James catching up on Dallin, then we're doing really, really good things. So we're fortunate to have that. And, it is kind of tricky navigating when is the correct time to have them compete. I think like right now this week, we decided we're going to be doing team workouts. So on Fridays, we typically put in some sort of like fun competition aspect. And so in order to kind of break up that feeling of like me worrying, are these guys and girls going to be okay with the fact that they did not win a workout, even though it is training? Let me just put it in the team aspect so it alleviates some of that stress as well. But it's what you're mentioning is something that I'm constantly trying to figure out every single day. And now that I have my core group with me, it's going to be much easier to be able to navigate that. But honestly, that's a question that I'm constantly trying to figure out what's going to be the right ingredients to get that figured out correctly, so that everyone is progressing, not physically but also mentally, because that's just as important in this sport for sure.
Yeah, I wondered, as a coach and the programmer, how do you control yourself from making those changes? Because it's fun to watch these athletes compete against each other, right? So that's one part of it, but the other part of it is it would be way easier just to throw the same thing at all of them. And it just kind of reminds me of, well, the way that I think a lot of groups of athletes that train together in CrossFit, the way that it happens, it reminds me of the old Bulgarian training system in weightlifting, where they're just snatching and clean and jerking and front squatting heavy, however many times a week. So that's sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes 1 time a day. So we're talking about at least 10 or more times a week. They're max snatching, max clean and jerking, and max front squatting. And I'm sure there's more specifics to it and details than that, but they're kind of just thrown in there, and the level of athlete that they are allows them to adapt and figure things out and become one of the best. But it also weeds out a lot of other athletes that maybe could have been the best with a little bit of a different type of a training. But I just wonder how you handle that. You control yourself from just throwing the same thing at them, because we are talking about high level athletes, very talented athletes that, in one sense can figure things out and perhaps can find a way to achieve almost no matter what program that they're on. But on the other side of that, is there something better?
Definitely. I think it comes down to the question of what is the athlete's priority, and this is I guess like an example that I would say is James and Dallin both have a strict handstand push-up endurance priority, right? And at the foundational level, they need to gain strength on it first, right? So if I have James coming in, and I know his focus is going to be like building a stronger press, like strength wise, then Dallin is more endurance currently. For James, I'm okay with him doing a 5x5 for the sake of argument at heavy across. So it's like an 8 or 9 RPE, or maybe it's like 85% or higher of his 5 rep max. And then Dallin, I'm actually going to start him on positional work, handstand push-up positional work, and then have him go through some sort of higher volume, handstand push-up progression. And then I'm going to give him his endurance work with a barbell. So that's going to be like 55 to 60%, right? So James, heavy across, and then going into some simpler skill work with handstand push-up. Dallin starting with his endurance pressing and positional work, higher skilled, whatever the case may be. you take that same thought and you break it down across the board for all their priorities. And I don't try to do too much. I really just try to focus on three things until I see a significant amount of change, or if they go through a competition or a qualifier where I go, oh, this has popped up, let us change our focus in another direction. And so it kind of takes a step away from, kind of what you mentioned is go heavy often or big volume all the time, or, it's like, it takes the guesswork out of it. And so whenever I start to get into a place where, they're, and I'm okay with them asking questions, if they want to figure out why they're doing this, like, why are they doing this first instead of that first? I'm okay, because I can easily say, this is what we decided was your priority, and this is the path that we've chosen to get there. And that's what I do with, my athletes.
Right. And one of the beautiful things about CrossFit is that team feeling. You come into the gym to a general CrossFit class and you get to work out with other people that are doing the same thing. And that really breeds a lot of camaraderie. So being that your athletes are usually doing different workouts throughout the day, they're in there at the same time, they're doing different workouts throughout the day. Have you noticed any way or any different way that you see them support each other and become that family and have that camaraderie in spite of that?
Definitely. What I really love to see in there is, when they get to their conditioning piece at whatever point it is in their training, they understand when I'm giving them, X amount of work versus X amount of rest, the type of intent behind that training. So when they see someone that's really pushing or suffering, they'll stop what they're doing, cheer them on, clap them on, tell them to keep going. If they have their hands on their knees, they're going to, scream at them to get their, that weight going. A perfect example is that today, one of our newer athletes, Nate Ackerman, that works with Coach Dom. Coach Dom had him do 150 wall balls for time at 30 pounds. And, James was in there, Danielle was in there, and then David was in there, and everyone stopped what they were doing and they're crowding around him, cheering him on. It's like they know that feeling, and they know the effort, and they know what they need like behind them to allow that athlete to keep moving. And it's in moments like that where it's like I think they start to develop naturally almost that team camaraderie, and that trust and that faith in one another.
Nice. I love that. My last question for now would be, can you tell us what that time was on Karen with 30 pounds? I'm very interested.
Yeah. It was sub 7:10 is what I'll say there.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's funny. If you look at Nate's his story on his Instagram, you'll see his after. I think James took a little video of him afterwards. Yeah, but it was very cool to see.
Nice.
Chad, you know your Karen time? 20 pounds?
Probably something like 20 minutes, I would guess. No, I think it's
a leisurely stroll.
Yeah, it's probably honestly somewhere 7:30 to 8. I can't remember exactly, but it's or yeah, probably closer to 8. It's not great, but it's not terrible, I guess.
Might have to retest that sometime soon. Dude, I can't. Matt, I've been interested to know a little bit more about Brute. Brute's been around for a while, and I think you've been a part of it for a while, but it seems to have taken in a new form or direction, or what it is now doesn't seem to be the same as it was from maybe how I remember it. Can you give our listeners and me and Chad both a little bit more of what Brute is now and kind of what your role is and how you started out within it?
For sure. Yeah. So, when I first started Brute, I saw it as like Adrian Conway was the face. And what Brute was back in like 2013, 14, and 15 with Mike Caju and the Brute squad, like the team that would go to the CrossFit Games, they were known as like bringing in like a specialist, right? So they had like Henshaw for their endurance. They had Adrian Conway as the mental side. Matt Bruce was their lifting coach. They even brought in Sean Pastuche for like recovery, like the whole nine. And they were mainly based on like a templated program, as like you would see like any of these companies now, like Proven, HWPO, CompTrain having their own template. And then over time, it morphed to a one-on-one remote coaching. And so it broke off into two sectors. It was like, do you want this or do you want that? And then coming up to today, where I fit into the mix was I came in as a one-on-one coach, and my mentor and Nick Fowler was another coach that was on staff. I remember specifically one day he says, Matt, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to be? Do you want to do one-on-one coaching? What is it? And I was like, honestly, man, I want to be the best in the world. If I'm going to be doing this, I want to be known. And at that time, I think it was like 2016. And Bergeron was a big name at that time. I was like, if someone says Bergeron, I want to hear Matt Torres. That's the trajectory that I want to go on. And then through that time, I was kind of known in the CrossFit realm as the teen coach, which for me it allowed me to really learn my craft, because the teens, like, they say, I say do this, and they say how much. There's no stopping them. Like, they always have more to give. And then so I was like, you know what? If I could just keep these guys and girls going into the professional realm, then I think I'm going to be just fine. And that's kind of what happened. And so from an outsider's perspective, what it looks like, what happened with Brute was, they have all these athletes, these big name athletes, but they're doing one-on-one remote programming. They're not doing templated programming. And so I think as a whole in the CrossFit community, we're starting to understand that template program is good to get you started in a certain direction. And then as you reach a certain point, you have to have someone in there to give you the things that you need, not what the masses need. And so a lot of athletes started to gravitate towards that, towards Brute and towards myself. And that's when I started, got with Emma, got with Fee, and then eventually with Danielle as well. And then, we have a lot of other athletes that we're working with. Today, with Brute, we want to get back into, we do everything. I'm excited about the future of Brute. There's a lot of things that we have coming in the very near future that I'm excited to share with the world. It's going to be something that it's going to get us back to who we were when we had such a huge presence back in like the 13, 14s, 15s, and 16s even. And so that's going to be something that, we'll be able to share with you guys here shortly. But, in essence, the big focus right now for me and where I stand currently is I want to be able to give these athletes everything they need to succeed, whether it's from the coach's side of things, whether it's from the marketing side of things. A lot of that is what drives my decision making and my focus. And currently, as it stands right now, it is in a coach's capacity. And they have a lot of good people on their side. They have their agents and their managers on their side that allows me to focus on what I know I'm capable of doing. So that's a really big piece. But, one of our major goals, and I guess this is like something that we're actually starting next week, is we want to get back to our camps. That's something that set us apart in the past. Our camps are run very, very well. And it's something that we're starting, the first weekend of November. And we want to be able to create a season of camps so that we're able to share our knowledge. We're able to share our love for, elite level fitness, or just, people that are just starting off brand new to fitness as well.
That's awesome. And like, obviously the coaching side is such a near and dear to your heart. But you come from the athlete world. You were an athlete yourself at a high level. You were a collegiate football player. Was there someone that you had growing up or at that higher level from a competitive standpoint that you said, okay, because I know both Chad and I did on the coaching side, is that this person knows what they're doing. This person is different in terms of a coach, just like an elite athlete is different than the average athlete. That you said, I want to be like this person. There's someone that kind of like stands out to you in terms of not only just being like a mentor on the coaching side, but someone that you feel like kind of got something out of you that you didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, I think that started in high school. My high school head coach, this guy named Bill Kramer, is a phenomenal high school football coach. I think that's kind of what started it. Was there's different ways of coaching people, and you can greatly affect a human being by the way you approach them and the way you communicate things to them. And then, to be honest, when I got into college, I had 3 different head coaches. I played at Central Michigan, and it was almost like a stepping stone for a coach to come. And so what happened was I learned that each coach had their way of connecting with athletes. And a lot of that was, it wasn't the best thing in the world in some cases. And in other cases, it was phenomenal coaching. And so I got to see what not to do. Right. And as you guys would all know, it's like this coach was a phenomenal coach, and he got so much out of me. And then this coach, just like, I felt like I was just like walking into hell every day, just waiting for him to rip me a new one. And he was expecting so much out of me, but it was just destroying me on the inside. And so somehow, some of my teammates responded very well to that. I wasn't one of those. I'm the guy that's like, just tell me what to do. I'm going to get it done, you know? But at the same time, it kind of helped me create my craft on what I think is going to be super beneficial for athletes. And then along came this thought was my college positional coach. He was a walk-on, and he was a wide receiver, and he was able to teach me things from his experience. He wasn't the best, right? Like, I think he got a scholarship like the last year or something. And I was like, how am I connect? Because before that, I'm like, man, I would really love if, Jerry Rice came in and taught me, how to run routes, or Fitzgerald would come in and show me how to, catch balls from different positions. And then eventually I was like, wait a second, it's really not about that at all. I don't need to be the best at really anything. What I need to do is be able to thoroughly understand the sport and be able to get my athlete to do this thing and communicate it in such a way that I can talk to this athlete with this personality, that athlete with that personality, and they have a common understanding that I'm going to get them to that level. And so that's kind of been, I guess the all-encompassing thing that kind of triggered me to go down this path was, I guess, like, I felt like I was good at connecting with people, and having a deep understanding. If you stick to something long enough, you can have a really good understanding of what it takes to get them there.
I think that's such an awesome point. I'll let you jump in and chat in a second, but I think that's such a critical component. That do you think that it's something that can be learned or taught, or do you think it's innate in someone that you have the ability to connect, you have the ability to get something out of each individual in a team, even though you're coaching individuals for the most part, but you are creating a team, or do you think that is something that someone can actually learn? I don't know the answer to that. I think it's something maybe you just have in you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's more so leaning towards something that you have in you. You know, it's the willingness to learn yourself and be humble with the fact that your way is not always the right way. Listen more than you talk. I was the youngest of 3 kids in my family, and I did a lot of listening. I think it was just something that I could just kind of developed on my own. When I'm hearing a coach talk, like, I am listening to every single detail. And then in a weird way, man, I'm also looking at people's reactions. I'm understanding what they're picking up, what they're not picking up. It's just one of those things where, and I tell Danielle this all the time when she first came in, I said, look, I don't know how to coach you yet. But if you can trust me, I'm going to mess up a lot, but I guarantee I'm going to be a very quick learner. And I'm going to know exactly when to push and when not to push, what to say and when not to say. It's just going to take me a little bit of time at first. And I think we're slowly developing that, because I have that with my athletes. Dallin can be doing something in a workout, and I know what'll piss them off and get them going. And I don't really have to scream it to them. I can just tell it to them in a very calm voice, and it'll get them going. And what's funny is in competition, I'll kind of have that same tone, just a little bit louder so you can hear me. And he's like, I could hear you out of the thousands of people are screaming, and I know you didn't say it loud enough.
What a great thing to confess up front. I'm not completely sure how to coach you yet, but I'll figure it out. I love that. That's very, very powerful, and something I'm going to take to heart for sure, and probably try to confess a little bit more often myself. Even to myself, I need to remember and understand that I don't know how to coach any individual that I begin with in the very beginning. You have to fill things out and kind of go from there. I do have a few more specific coaching questions for you, but want to take a sidetrack real quick because anytime someone brings up football, I have to ask something about that. I
Talking about
played
New
high
York
school.
Giants now because we can finish up the podcast later.
No, not the New York
Sorry.
Giants. No, none of that. I'm talking
They've
about
been doing great.
I'm talking about high school football for me. That's all I've got. Dreams of high school football still to this day. But were you were a wide receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me what you miss most about football because again, I seriously at least probably now it's once every 3 to 6 months I'll have a dream about high school football.
Man, I'll tell you what, it took me many years to get over the fact that football was over. I didn't know what was going on, but I would have dreams frequently about it, and it would get me in the morning time. It'd be things like I'm running a route and like the wind's like pushing me backwards, and then it's like the ball's landing like inches in front of me, and my coaches are yelling at me. It's the weirdest things. But to answer your question, the thing that I miss the most, man, is just being out there with my guys. You know, I remember the times that we're laughing together, the times that we cry together, the times that we're in pain together, those like double sessions in the summertime, running when, when we're all puking and we still got like 3 or 4 more, sets to go. We're doing repeat 400s, like, getting yelled at for going out and partying and having to, do some wild, punishment the next morning while we're all hungover. And then what's funny is like my dad tried his best to never miss a game. He would always be like, remember that one play against that one team? It was, 3rd and 12 and they, you caught that, that hook, and I'm like, no, not really actually. But I could tell you about, the meetings that we had after the fact. I could tell you about our, the conversations that my roommates and I or my teammates and I would have where, it would basically be conversations of, dude, I'm leaving. I can't handle this anymore. And we're trying our best just to keep our best friend around. That's truly what I miss the most about football, especially at that higher level.
Oh man, that's beautiful. And the coaching question I had for you kind of ties into your answer there pretty perfectly because you kind of talked about why you coach and what you want to achieve with it and everything else, but I feel like there's a different type of a person that coaches in different ways at different levels. And what I mean by that is for me, I'm more of a teacher than a coach. So I coach, right? Mostly teach people. If I work with them online and I'm programming for them, it's not that I'm their coach. I'm their teacher and yeah, they progress and all these types of things like that. But I don't necessarily desire to be anyone's coach that's there with them at competition and day to day and having those types of relationships. But you seem to want to have those strong relationships and be someone's coach, but not only be someone's coach in that like a coach at a CrossFit gym that people come into regular CrossFit class. I'm talking about you seem to want to coach high level athletes, a different group and population of people. So what is it about you or what has led you to want to work with this group of people and to be their coach? And perhaps is some of that trying to fill that hole that you no longer have with football?
Yeah. I think what that is like, I want them to win just as bad as they want to win. My coach used to tell me this stuff all the time. And it didn't really hit home until recently. It's like, man, I still remember like the passion in my coach's eyes. He's like, I would do anything to win. Like he has like tears coming out of his eyes because he's just like getting in the moment. And the dude straight up, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but he'd be like, I would eat a bucket of shit every fucking day to win the MAC championship. He's like, what would you do? Yeah. And at that time, I was like 17, 18 years old. I'm like, this is so weird, man. Like, get out of my face, But now it's like, I'm telling you, I can't, it's almost overdone the amount of times I told Danielle, it's game week. It's game week. And, she says something, I'm like, it's game week. It's like, are you sure about that? It's game week. It's like the mentality is there because I want to see her succeed because I see, how much hurt and pain they go in, how much pressure they put on themselves, the expectations that they set for themselves. And I want to see it just as bad as they do. You know, so I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get that, to make it happen for them. You know, whatever type of toughness I need to create within them, whatever type of, you know, adaptation I need to create physically for them, I'm going to try to my best to do that. And it's like, I don't know, man, it keeps me up at night knowing that I didn't do enough. Like when I know an athlete fails in a competition, it like eats away at my soul, but it also creates this like this new, I don't know, layer of myself where I'm like, I will not allow that to happen again, at least to the best of my ability.
Now that's incredible. I mean, to have a coach at that level to be able to devote themselves as much as you are willing to do for your athletes, I think everybody seeks that out, you know. And you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but we mentioned New York Giants. I got to do it one more time because I'm an enormous Giants fan. Jordan was with me over the weekend. We were at the Masters Fitness Collective, and the Giants won as we were driving back to the airport yesterday on a last second stop at the goal line just to beat the Jaguars. And the Giants are a terrible team on paper. They're a terrible team on paper, but their coaching gets the most out of their. They have a new coach, Brian Daboll, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, and what they've been able to do to pull out of these athletes is unbelievable. Anyone watching from the outside is like, what is this guy able to do to get into these athletes' heads to make them think that they're better players than they actually are? And they're 6-1 because they have a coaching staff. I think it's more about the coaching than is anything else that makes everybody say they're much worse than their record really is. And I watch every week, and every week I'm more impressed with the commitment that he shows to those players, always putting it on himself and saying, if they failed, it's because I failed. And I love watching that and watching him talk about these things. And I see a lot of the same things that you're talking about and what I hear Brian Daboll talk about when he's doing his press conferences after the games. And I just love seeing that because to me, you're the type of coach that's going to be able to pull something out of an athlete that they don't even think that they're capable of. Is that something that you're trying to strive towards? And do you kind of envision that as well?
For sure, for sure. You know, I gotta get that out of them in training, so they have the confidence going into the to a competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and here's the other thing: like, I love seeing the Giants do well because of how terrible they were the last couple of years, and so I like the teams that surprise other teams where it's like, look, like I wish the Lions were like that. You know, the Dolphins are my team, and you know, when Tua's playing, they're 4-0. So I'm happy about that as well. But I agree with you, man. It's like it kind of reminds me of like the Pete Carroll effect in a way. I think Pete Carroll was the first one to be like quote unquote like the players coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a very very fine line between coach friend. You know, with my athletes down here, I try to lean coach. You know, I'll obviously be, you know, their friend when we step outside and, you know, we're having dinner together, if we're playing, you know, games together at someone's house. But it is very important for me to be coach, you know, and I definitely think it's like a respect level as well to have that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's awesome to watch, and we got to see it up close and personal at a Power Monkey camp a few weeks ago, and it's the first time we actually got to meet you in person. And you brought out quite a few of your crew. Danielle was with us, Emma was with us, Dallin was with us, and we got to see them as athletes, trying to work on a lot of the skills and things like that. But one of the things that kind of came across, especially with the athletes that you've worked with for a while, is how receptive they are to learning. And I think that that's a little bit coming from you as the coach, coming in there and say, we're going to use this opportunity, not just to go and be a face, an athlete in this environment, but to try to use it as an opportunity to become better. By the time we leave this place, let's see if we can take 1 or 2 things home with us, maybe more, that we can apply to the way that we train, so that this week was a positive one, not only from an interaction standpoint, but also from a learning standpoint. And I wanted to ask you this question first. From the athletes that came to camp, you know, we had a week with each of them, the 3 of them specifically. Can you tell me one thing Danielle, Dallin, Emma does that separates them uniquely as athletes in your eyes?
For sure. So I think with Dallin, he's very level headed. So him and I are on the same exact page when it comes to pushing out his, his weaknesses. Like he is perfectly okay with going into competitions, and I say to him, "Hey, this is why we're here. If we get to this, that's icing on the cake. But this is why we're here. We got to test some of these things that we've been working on." And so he's like the pacing king. He can do it to optimize his performance every single time. With Emma, she's like, and these, I say these, but each of these athletes hone these skills as well. But with Emma, like, she's a dog. Like, she has this sweet, innocent, like, up front, but inside, like, she's a killer, and she may not let other people see it, but it is what pushes her each and every day. Is like, she doesn't want to just win. I can't tell you how many times I have these conversations with her. It's far too many times where, she'll do a qualifier and she'll get first in something and she'll come at me disappointed. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I just expected to beat him by a lot more. I'm like, you gotta, it's a win, you gotta feel good about it. And then again, like, everyone has these traits, and I'm like, Dallin has that, Emma has the same thing with Dallin. And then what separates Danielle right now is her history and her experience in sport. I have these conversations with her. It's nice because it's like the priorities that we have for her are like tiny. She's 20, I think she's 26 years old. Emma and Dallin are so young that there's so many things to expand upon, but she's really good at this, she's really good at that, and it's like, if we could just get this just a little bit better, it's really good. I say priority, and I'm like, even though this is your priority, I want to make this stronger because I want you on the podium. And so her history, and not having been a CrossFit athlete until like 4 or 5 years ago officially, swimmer, gymnast, zero fear. When she goes, like, there's so much passion behind what she does, and it's like, these are all things that I can't go back in time and put Emma in gymnastics. I can't put Dallin in gymnastics now. It's like, now we got to start from where we're at and build upon it now. So, with her, and I think this is, pretty cool because she's about to compete here, is I always tell her, the more chaos, the better. I trust you to figure stuff out at a much faster rate, according to feel, than these other athletes that don't have your same experience and history in sport. And so it's like, if we get a ruck with legless rope climbs, I'm fine, because I know that you're going to be able to figure it out, whatever the case may be. And so, for the three of them, and to go back to, the Power Monkey camp, I think what was so cool about the Power Monkey camp was I had the conversation with them. I'm like, guys, come with questions, right? These are some of the best coaches in the world, and they will gladly help answer those questions. But if you don't say anything, they're going to do their thing. All right. And I think right on, as as I met with them for their breaks and for lunches, they're like, oh, so-and-so helped me out with this, and so-and-so helped me out with that. And I have, this figured out with my, my bar muscle ups, or this figured out with my L sits and the handstand. And so it was super beneficial to be able to see that, the coaches there at the Power Monkey camp can coach a broad range of athletes. It's not just this level or that level.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear. And I think your athletes will appreciate that too, in terms of being able to pinpoint what's unique about their skill set. From your perspective, what was Power Monkey camp like for you as a coach and participating? One of the cool things, you participate in the actual stations themselves and a lot of the other activities. What was it in relation to what you anticipated camp being actually like?
Yeah. I didn't realize how many high-level coaches were going to be helping at that camp. Again, like, reiterating this part, it's like, it's the best in the world, at a very specific thing, and so I think people gravitate to it for, the gymnastics and the weightlifting side of it, as like, your logo is just that. But there's so much more to it. you're bringing in people to come in and speak. It's like, if there is any place to satisfy your itch for fitness to become better physically or mentally, you guys offer it there. And it's like, hey guys, this is happening. Sign up for it. You know, you want a VO2 max, sign up for it. You want to, you want to be better on your hands, sign up for it. It's like, you're here for this. So don't be shy, come do it. And I thought that was a really cool aspect. And it's something that, there's no other camp that truly offers that, where it's a week of just being like, every single question that you have for fitness, and it shows with the amount of return campers that you have, about every question that you have about fitness for yourself, it's right here for your taking. And I thought that was really cool.
I appreciate that tremendously, man. And we loved having you and your team out, and we love the interaction. For us, the participants don't only love seeing Danielle or, looking at Dallin do an incredible lift, but they love interacting with them and having meals with those athletes and getting to know them as people a little bit more. And so the fact that you guys were all able and willing to do that with the participants and the coach and staff, I think meant a lot for everyone. So we appreciate you participating in the way that you did. A couple of things that came out of it. One, it was a little bit of a crazy week, and for you specifically, and I hope it's okay to bring it up, but it was the week of the hurricane down in Florida, and your Naples area, and that neighborhood was hit especially hard, and you were hit especially hard with the gym and your home being devastated and things like that. And there was a point during the week when some of us knew that it had happened, and there were some fundraisers going on already, but people were asking you about it, and you're like, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And you really didn't even mention it to a lot of people who didn't know. And I mean, I thought that was incredible for someone to be away from their home and have such devastating thing happen, and still be able to be present and to be able to be there with everyone, not let it be known that you were dealing with something pretty severe. How has it been since you've been back? Have things calmed down? Are you feeling like you're getting things back in order since the hurricane hit?
For sure. I've learned something in my time as an athlete. And Justin Su'a is a guy that works with brute strength often, and he's the one that kind of like showed me the way. And it's something that we've all heard before, but it's a saying that just says, be where your feet are. It's just like, control what you can control. And in that moment, what I thought was most important was everyone to be focused on what they need to be focused on in the camp. And even though I was in connection with what was happening over here, and knowing what was happening at my home, I knew that in that moment, I really can't control anything for what was happening. And so it was something at the camp where I was like, I'm going to have to deal with it once I get over there. I really can't do much with it right now. And then the cool thing about, growing up in Naples is, because I've known a lot of people here around town. I had a lot of people that were really helping me out. And it was one of the most grateful things I've ever been through or felt. And it really helps with the, with the grieving process, because, when I come home and my entire place is cleared out and cleaned, by the way, it was a mess what I was seeing on videos and pictures. But I'm not even kidding. Like, my friends all gathered together and like did the work for me. And so it kind of sped up the process of what's most important, what I need to do now. And honestly, like the biggest thing with that is, being able to do what is most normal at as quickly as possible. Because there's people in this town that didn't benefit the same way that I did. They just moved into town. They don't really know anybody. So they got to go back to wherever they came from, quit their job, ask if, whatever the case may be. There's people that still don't have power currently right now. It's like that right there. When I saw all that help coming to me, as soon as that first week when I came back here, it was like I was on the ground helping other people. It's like, it would be an absolute shame if I received all this help from a different state and I couldn't even play my part in, helping my community as well. From that point, a few weeks ago to where we are today, the biggest thing, as you guys would know, because you're all you guys are, successful businessmen as well, is finding your schedule is very, very important. And my athletes were super beneficial and helpful for them to understand and realize, like, I'm living in this house, I'm trying to find these cars, and creating a morning schedule for myself is super important with a lot of the things I'm managing. And so this last week, I've been living in the same apartment now for a week now. I get my new car like next week or something, or this week. And so everything is starting to feel normal. And it really doesn't seem like, when I'm walking into the Brute gym, it really doesn't seem or feel like we've been through this huge, catastrophe currently, even though it's in the back of a lot of our minds, because we still see the remnants around us. But, it's about as normal can be right now.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that things are starting to get back to normal for you. And, you're still in our thoughts, and we want to make sure that anybody who comes through Power Monkey Camp, you're part of our family, and we want you to be knowing that we're only a phone call away if you need anything for us. So I'm glad to hear that things are back in order again. So it's really great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I really do appreciate that, and thank you, seriously, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for everything, for the help, for making it as normal as possible for me when I was up there in Tennessee.
Of course. The last question for me on camp, a little bit of a positive note, hopefully. One of the things that we introduced that I think your team got a kick out was open up pickleball for the first time. We talked about it with Dallin, and then we saw Danielle put out a mayday call of, please, does anyone in Naples area know how to play pickleball? Teach me, I need a partner to play pickleball. Have you guys started to play a little bit down there?
Oh yeah. So what's good about pickleball in like a 2v2 or doubles? There's not a lot of movement, and as you guys know, it's like you're dinking and donking each other, like inside the kitchen. And so it's not like, and I have this conversation with my athletes all the time. I'm like, guys, just be smart. Like, this is your living. You know what I mean? Like, don't go out and play pickup basketball. But in pickleball, if you're playing doubles, it's more strategy than anything. And it's a lot of lateral, simple lateral movements that pierce up there. But yeah, I mean, what was it, like last Saturday? We were out there for like 4 hours playing, and Naples, I'm not even kidding, Naples is the home of like the World Pickleball Championship. And so it's like where Danielle lives, there's like, I don't even know, like 20 courts right around the corner from where she lives. And so since we're not in like season, it's not wintertime over here yet, we can actually get out there and just like learn and understand the sport. But it's something that is like, I mean, you put any competitor out there, and a pickleball is such a fun sport because it's simple. It's like you just hit it over the net, and then you start to put strategy into it, and all of a sudden it becomes super addictive. But yeah, it started over there at Power Monkey, and getting our asses handed to us, and now it's like, I'm not even kidding. Like, yeah, I was watching James play this one dude, and it was like, James wanted that match just as bad as he wanted to be at the CrossFit Games last year. And like, you can see like the anger in him, like if he didn't pick up a point. And so it's cool. I always say, like, guys, you are not a CrossFitter. It's like, if CrossFit was taken away from you today, like, you have to be out and about learning and like, experiencing life. Like, there's more life than the four walls in a competition. And it's cool because a lot of the athletes love to be able to get out and just, do other things besides fitness 24/7.
I love it. Chad, you jump in, but just want to let everybody know out there that's thinking about coming to Power Monkey Camp. We're going to have 3 official courts at Power Monkey Camp next time. We're going to have 2 on the basketball court and then 1 in the gym where the finals will be happening. We're incorporating much more pickleball moving forward.
We're gonna have to talk about how you're gonna work that. Are we running a tournament throughout the course of the whole week, or what's going on there?
No, we're taking out all of the barbell stations
Oh, okay,
and
gotcha. Yeah,
including
easy. Yeah,
pickleball.
that's fine. Hey, I
Where
can
the
I can
where
still do
the
my
station-
station without a bar. I don't need a bar to do my station, so we're good to go. I seriously think moving forward in Matt's program, we're gonna see an active recovery section that has pickleball written in underneath it. That's what it's gonna be.
It's a great idea.
For sure, man. Dude, I would love that. I'm sure the athletes would love it too.
Well, we appreciate the time today, man. It's great chatting with you and getting to know a little bit more inside that brain of yours in terms of how you're getting these athletes ready for upcoming competitions into the next year. And we're going to be pulling for you every time we're out there. Just know the Power Monkey's behind you guys, and we want you guys to do well. Before we get you out, are you cool answering a couple quick questions for us?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. First one, what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a little thought there. So I
Yeah,
know that it's
I'm happy with
sincere.
the hesitation, so I'll take it.
I don't know enough about gymnastics currently after leaving Power Monkey. And so I'm kind of like exploring that realm a little bit more, which is something that I actually wanted to have a conversation with you guys about regardless is,
Absolutely. Happy to do it. And you mentioned earlier just the little thing that I heard that I thought was interesting. You know, we had Dallin on a few weeks ago, and you're like, I can't make Emma a gymnast. I can't have Dallin do gymnastics. But is Dallin in the gymnastics gym working out with little kids these days? Because we need to get a camera in there if that's actually happening.
Yeah, not yet, but I really do need to see that. Like, I can visualize Dallin with like other 6 and 8-year-old girls all learning the same thing, and then a girl like coaching him on how to do it, or like yelling at him like his toes need to be pointed.
Oh my God, I need an episode of that somewhere. That'd be amazing. Next question. Any guest that you think would be great for us to interview? Someone you've come across recently, someone that you work with on a regular basis, somebody you think we should have on the podcast?
Let's see. I think
it's always a tough question.
Yeah, I think honestly, like Cooper Marsh would be a good one to have on. Cooper Marsh is, a handful of my athletes' agent. He comes from like this is the sport of CrossFit as the way he sees it, and this is the type of growth that he's capable of seeing. So it kind of gives like almost like that business side for all those aspiring CrossFit athletes out there. However young you may be or wherever you're at your journey, there are ways of making a living in this sport. And so if those are questions that are easily can be cleared through Cooper and his experience, because he works with my athletes, but on like a different like level with them, stuff that I don't have to worry about, which is amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, Jordan, see if Jordan get in touch with him, set that one up.
Yeah, nice recommendation there. Thank you for that. Any books that you've come across here recently that you'd recommend to our listeners? And it doesn't have to be fitness related.
Mm-hmm. So one current book that I really like is this book called Mastery. I forget who it was by, but it was given to me when I was an athlete. I gave it to a couple of my athletes as well. And it's just it's a book that talks about the process and the journey and enjoying the process and the journey and just being honestly like realistic. And then as far as like, I don't know, I really like to understand relationships as well. And I think this is a book that every guy should read. It's not really, I mean, if you're a lady, you could definitely read it, but it's called The Way of the Superior Man. It changed my life when it came to my relationship. And again, it's just something that I like to just tinker with and understand the inner workings of what makes a relationship strong.
Nice. Well, thank you for those recommendations. I think both of those are two that we haven't had before. So glad to add those to our list as well. And Matt, man, it was a pleasure to have you at camp and to get to know you a little bit more. Hopefully we can all kind of spend more time together. And thank you once again for joining us on the show today. You have anything you got coming up you want folks to know about? I know you mentioned some stuff about Brute that you can't quite say yet, but how can folks keep up with you and Brute? And do you have any parting words for our listeners?
For sure. I think the biggest thing is, support the athletes. We have Danielle competing here on Thursday at the Rogue Invitational. We have a lot of athletes going to Wadapalooza. So, if you guys can make it out, if you can, watch them, whatever the case may be. We have Brute has our camp coming up. The more we can get support for these athletes, the better the sport is going to be for everybody. And so, that would be my biggest thing is, if you have a favorite athlete out there, especially if you have a favorite Brute athlete out there, show your support. They absolutely love it. They really like communicating with their fans and answering questions and, hearing that person out there cheering for them as well.
Awesome. Well, being that I'm in the Austin area, I will be making it to the Rogue Invitational for a day or two. So I'll definitely track you down and hopefully we can at least quickly say hello. But to our listeners out there, as always, guys, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.